YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Lynette. My full-time job is my online coaching business, and on the side, I make YouTube videos. Today's video is going to be a video that has not really been requested at all, but it's just something that I have wanted to kind of put out here, have a conversation about this subject, get your guys' feedback, and also kind of educate you guys on different ways to diet, different methods of eating when you're trying to lose weight or have a certain physique goal, stuff like that. I find that so many people are so lost when it comes to dieting and like which diet is best, which one you're supposed to do. So I'm gonna kind of lay out like the main 6 types of diets. Really, I should say the main 6 ways of being accountable to food, because there's obviously billions of types of diet, and I'm not gonna go into super specific ones. I'm just gonna kind of go over, like I said, like the 6 that as an online trainer I kind of run into a lot, and just give the pros and cons of each of them. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. If you have any feedback for me, your own experience with dieting. The only thing I ask is that you don't like make the blanket statement that the vegan diet is best. You have to go paleo or you're gonna die. Like, I think we all know by now that everybody is built differently. Everybody's going to respond to food differently. Some people live and die by being a vegan, and some people hate it. Some people medically cannot be vegan. So feel free to share your opinions. Just be respectful and understand that like just because something works for you does not mean that that's what everybody should be doing in terms of food. And also, if I say something that you don't like about the way that you eat, remember, I'm just one person, and my opinion is not gold. If you are happy with the way that you eat, keep doing it. It doesn't matter what I think or anybody else thinks, as long as you're not unhealthy, you know what I mean? Without further ado, let's hop right into this video. All right, so I'm gonna start kind of broad and then go down a little bit more specific when it comes to dieting. So the first thing that I see people do when they wanna get healthy is that they decide they're just going to clean up their diet. Sometimes it's by going vegetarian or going vegan, or sometimes people will do the Whole30, and that's their way of kind of cleaning up the foods that they eat. They're not necessarily tracking calories, they're not necessarily tracking portions, they have just decided, okay, maybe I'm gonna cut out some of this type of food. Maybe I'm gonna start eating this kind of way, with really the only goal in mind to be eating healthier. I see a lot of people do this when they don't really know a lot about how to lose weight or how to put on muscle or whatever. This is kind of like the easy go-to that we all revert to before we have any education about nutrition, and it's not a bad thing. The pros to this kind of dieting is that it's very simple. There's no rules, there's no numbers, you can't really mess it up, you're just eating healthier. Another thing is that this allows variety in your diet. Deciding to just eat healthier really just means probably just cutting down portion sizes, eating more fruits and vegetables. There's not necessarily like a list of foods you can eat and foods you can't eat, which is just a really good thing to have. You want variety in your diet. Another pro here is that there's no counting. There's no calorie counting, there's no macros, there's no rules, there's no numbers assigned to food. It's very easy on your brain to just decide to clean up your diet and eat healthier. The cons to this method of dieting is that because there's no accountability to what you're eating, you're not tracking anything, you're not keeping a log of what you're eating. A lot of times you may not be getting results and you don't know why, and you don't know how to fix it. If you don't know what you're eating on a daily basis and can like look back and see how much or what type of food you're eating, you don't really know what to fix in your diet to get better results. Also, I find that without some kind of accountability, sometimes people who decide they're just going to eat healthier find themselves kind of easily slipping back into old habits, because you can kind of define what eating healthier is. I mean, you may say going to McDonald's and only getting 2 Big Macs instead of 3 is eating healthier. So like, there's not necessarily a big push to like making solid change when your decision is just to eat healthier. The next kind of diet that I want to talk about is portion control, or like using measuring cups, measuring spoons, or even like I know Beachbody has that like cup measuring system, and that's how you lose weight or you diet, is you measure all your food out in these little cups. So the pros of this type of dieting is that, again, it's really simple. You've just decided that you're gonna watch your portions, which is a great way to stay accountable to your food. There's a big difference in the amount of cereal that comes out of the box when you just pour until you're satisfied versus when you measure out 3/4 the cup of cereal. You can cut back so many calories simply by using measuring cups and actually being aware of portion sizes. Other pros is that there's no counting usually. This is just you staying accountable to whatever fits inside those little cups or fits in a measuring spoon. This kind of dieting still allows variety because, again, there's really no rules about what foods you can or cannot eat, and it does offer more accountability to your food than just simply deciding to eat healthier because your portions are controlled. So I know that this dieting method has worked for a lot of people in just reining their calories back in. The cons of this type of dieting is that you're not extremely accountable to your food. Unless you're counting calories or counting macros or something, you may be controlling portion sizes, but you may still be having too many portions. You know what I mean? Like, you may not be using measuring cups, but you're using them to measure out a portion of ice cream 3 times a day. Or you're using like a quarter cup measuring thing for peanut butter or something. You know what I mean? Like calories can still be really high. Also, some people can find this method of dieting restricting just because you can only eat what fits in the portion cups, but probably not as restrictive as other types of diets, but I guess this could potentially be that way. Also, it can be kind of tedious to try and make everything you eat fit inside a measuring cup. Obviously, this is not going to work when you go out to eat unless you want to be the weirdo that brings measuring cups everywhere that you go. So it can just be kind of difficult to be exact with your food with measuring cups and things of that nature. But a lot of people do get success from this type of dieting. A lot of people can just kind of use their intuition to know like when they're eating too much food and when they're not, and just having those measuring cups or those little bowls to portion out their food is enough for them to know like this is how much food I should be eating and this is how much is too much, or things like that. The next form of dieting that I want to talk about is counting calories. It's the oldest trick in the book. I think when it comes to dieting, people have been doing this for literally decades because it gives you so much accountability to what you're eating. When you're tracking calories of all the food that you eat in a day, you know exactly how many calories you've eaten that day. And while losing weight isn't just calories in versus calories out, it is the bulk of what dieting is for most people. I've worked with literally over 1,000 people at this point, and 9 times out of 10, people lose weight simply by reducing calories, not by having a meal plan, not by cutting out meat, not by cutting out dairy, not by going gluten-free. Your average person will lose weight if they reduce their calories to a level that allows their body to burn fat, plain and simple. I'm not saying that some people don't need special diets or that some people need to just do XYZ in order to lose weight outside of the calorie counting thing. I'm just telling you guys what has happened in my experience. Another pro to this type of eating is that it still allows variety in your diet. Since you're just counting calories, you can kind of eat whatever you want as long as it fits like your caloric goal that you're aiming for in a day. Usually with counting calories, you have a caloric goal that you're trying to hit every day, like 1,500 calories, 2,000 calories, and you just eat throughout the day, logging your calories, and you stop eating once you hit the point of where you need to stop. The drawbacks to this type of dieting is that it does assign numbers to food, which for some people can just be triggering to disordered thoughts around food, to feeling anxious around food, because now food is no longer, oh, this is what I'm eating to satisfy myself. This is now taking away calories you're allowed in a day. And so it can give people a little bit of anxiety. Like every time they eat a meal, they log that in and they're like, oh my gosh, I only have 600 calories left for the day. What if I find something that I really want to eat and it's more than 600 calories? Or what if I run out of calories and I'm still hungry? Like it just creates this tension, this stress on a person. And not all people feel that way, but I find it happen a lot. And this pressure, this anxiety over food causes people to like react negatively and overeat, or just go throw caution to the wind and say, whatever, I'm hungry, I'm just gonna eat whatever. Now, this isn't the case for everyone. Like, don't assume that just because some people can be like this, that this is how counting calories is gonna make you react. It seems to be really case by case in my experience. It's just that counting calories is still a form of restricting food to some degree, which restricting food just can trigger eating disorder type behaviors or thoughts in people, which is a bummer because in order to lose weight, food technically needs to be restricted to some degree for most people, but some people just do better just trying to eat less and assuming that they're eating in a caloric deficit than to actually count their calories and make sure that they're eating in a caloric deficit, even if it means slower results or less results. It's really honestly, at the end of the day, a matter of what you can put up with in order to get the results that you want. Like that's just putting it really honestly. The next type of diet that I want to mention is the one that everybody wants to talk about, the one that I have talked about many, many times on my channel, and that is counting macros slash flexible dieting slash if it fits your macros. Now, counting macros is probably one of the most accountable ways to be accountable to your diet. With tracking macros, you are literally tracking not just calories, but you're also aiming to hit a certain amount of protein, fat, and carbs in your daily diet. So with that being the case, you're literally eating the same amount of fat, carbs, and protein every single day within like 5 to 7 grams-ish. Now this has become such a popular way of dieting because A, it allows for really, really good results. Since your food is so controlled, if you're not getting results, you can very easily tweak your diet and start getting results again. This has also become popular because counting macros has kind of opened up this world where now people eat whatever they want as long as it fits their macros. So that means if you just want to eat candy and protein bars all day, as long as you don't exceed your fat, carbs, and protein macros, you're free to do so. If you hate vegetables, now you don't have to eat any and you can still lose weight. So for some people, this has been just like a dream come true. Like, wow, I can eat macaroni and cheese and pizza and lose weight. But what this should ideally be doing is not just like making room for you to do that, but it actually should be teaching you about a balanced diet, what a balanced macronutrient split in your diet should look like. So before I started counting macros, I thought something like a bagel was a perfectly fine breakfast, like a bagel and cream cheese, which, like, not saying that it's not, that you shouldn't have that. I would always wonder, why am I hungry an hour and a half later when I had like a 600 calorie bagel and cream cheese situation for breakfast? I didn't realize that it had almost no protein in it. And without protein, your food just like, it doesn't always stay anchored in your system in terms of like staying with you. So once I started tracking macros and I had this bigger protein goal to aim for, I realized, I really need to be having protein throughout the day. I need to have, you know, a decent amount of protein in every meal. So now I'm no longer having meals that are just carbs or meals that are just fat. I'm having meals that have a good mix of carbs, fat, and protein, which is really the ideal setup for your body to be functioning at its best, for you to perform your best. So ideally, that's what tracking macros can teach people. The cons of this type of dieting is kind of what I already mentioned, that a lot of people take this to the extreme and they will use this as an excuse to just eat crap. So when they're trying to lose weight, they will technically a lot of times lose weight even though they're eating crap foods simply because they're in a caloric deficit. But obviously that's not healthy. Obviously their body is going to suffer long term from trying to live off of processed foods, or if they're skipping out on vegetables. This diet just really is set up where it's easy for people to abuse it, and that's not a good thing. Like, that's not the point of flexible dieting. The point of flexible dieting is to give you freedom to indulge in certain things but still keep your diet primarily healthy, to understand the importance of macronutrients and stuff like that. But you know, you can't control other people and how they choose to diet or how they choose to utilize certain rules of dieting. Another pro of counting macros is that it is not simple. It's a really tedious method of dieting that a lot of people struggle to understand. And if you're one of those people, you are not stupid, you're not an idiot. Literally, I've had doctors and lawyers hire me and they cannot for the life of them figure out how to track macros and let it be like become natural to them. It's very complex for some people. Even with using apps and stuff like that, it can just be hard. Also, it can be hard when you're going out to eat because a lot of places don't put the nutritional information in their meals, like at restaurants. So going out to eat can sometimes be like a mixed bag. Sometimes you're tracking it accurately, sometimes you're not. That can actually cause a lot of stress for people trying to go out to eat and order the right thing without like going over their macros or whatever, which just causes so much stress for people. Overall, I just always say with people who track macros, I honestly think it's best to only do it short term, like for a few months or 6 months or even maybe a year at most if you have like a really specific goal. Another thing too is that it can kind of warp the way that you see food to where you're now eating food only to hit certain numbers and you stop thinking about food in terms of like whether or not you're hungry or whether or not you're full. I know when I was tracking macros, I would just make whatever meal fit my macros and I would just eat the whole thing. It didn't matter if I was full or if I wasn't even hungry or if when I was done I was still hungry. I just ate what was in front of me and I ate at certain times that seemed right. And that can be just like counterintuitive to I feel how we're supposed to eat. We were born with hunger cues, and yes, there's so much great information out there about how to properly fuel yourself, but your body will tell you a lot about what you need in your diet. And so getting so focused on only dieting based on what a set of numbers tells you and letting that dictate what you eat and when you eat, I feel like that can bring you to a point where you don't even know how to eat intuitively. You don't know how to eat without having numbers attached to food and weighing your food and tracking your food. I see this all the time where people who have tracked macros for a period of time become afraid to eat without tracking their food. So that can be a major con of tracking macros and is why I say to just make it something that you do short term. Don't try to track macros for like 3 or 4 years straight like I did in the past. It just messes with you so much. Another form of tracking macros that's like not really tracking macros, but it's similar, so I just want to throw this in here because it's a major way of dieting, is Weight Watchers. I've had so many clients who did Weight Watchers while they were working with me or have done Weight Watchers before, and I've heard so many great things about it. If you're not familiar with Weight Watchers, it's basically like a point system. So all food is assigned a certain number of points and you're given a certain number of points that you're supposed to eat every day, like 30 points or 40 points or something like that. And so you basically just eat all the food that you want until your points are used up, and then you either stop eating, or Weight Watchers has a list of 0-point food. I think this list has expanded to even include things like grilled chicken or whatever, but I think in the past it was primarily like fruits and vegetables. So like essentially if you run out of points for the day, which would mean like, oh, technically you can't eat anymore, you can have 0-point foods like vegetables or fruit, which is kind of neat. Like that's kind of the pros I think of Weight Watchers, is that it does encourage healthy eating. It does encourage like, hey, if you want a snack, if you're hungry, go for something that is 0 points, something that would be a healthy snack in general, like fruit or vegetables, as opposed to just filling your diet with like processed crap or like having snacks be processed garbage food, which like is fine if you have those in your daily diet, but I like that Weight Watchers is kind of pushing towards fresh food, fresh vegetables, protein sources. So that's really cool to me. Another thing about Weight Watchers that I kind of like is that it's a little bit more simple than tracking macros. Tracking macros can be so intense, and a lot of times I have Weight Watchers clients come to me, try and track macros, and then decide to go back to Weight Watchers because it's just so much easier. The cons of Weight Watchers is that sometimes it's not super exact. Because they have a list of 0 point food, a lot of people will abuse that. So you may eat all the food that equals the amount of points you're supposed to eat in a day, but then you also have like 6 or 7 0 point snacks. Now, I think bananas are a 0 point food on Weight Watchers, correct me if I'm wrong, or like apples. I'm pretty sure apples are a 0 point food. Now, I know nobody's gonna have like 6 or 7 apples in a day, but if you did, that could easily be like an additional 400, 500, 600 calories a day. I mean, if you're having tons of 0 point foods and adding them to your meals and having them as snacks on top of what you're supposed to be eating to lose weight. So now you're no longer in a caloric deficit. You're no longer in a place where your body's gonna wanna burn fat because you're not eating less calories than you burn. So I think the reason I end up getting a lot of Weight Watchers clients who are like kind of fed up with Weight Watchers is because they stop losing weight. They lose weight at first on the program, but then after a period of time with like the 0 point foods always calling their names, they get to a point where they're not losing weight anymore, even on the point system that they're on, and they need better accountability. They need to start counting macros or start counting calories to be a little bit more accountable to their food. The next type of diet that I want to mention is a meal plan. Meal plans are pretty plain and simple. It's basically when you have a plan for your food every day, like this is what you eat for breakfast, this is what you eat for lunch, this is what you eat for dinner, and these are the snacks you're gonna eat. It's like usually the same every day, the same amount of food, the same types of food, the same exact foods. A lot of times you'll see people on meal plans if they are competitive bodybuilders or they hire like a personal trainer or coach to help them lose weight. And the reason that is because it's so controlled. Like if you put somebody on a meal plan and they're eating exactly that, after they've been on that meal plan for a couple of weeks, it's pretty easy for a coach to tell what needs to happen next in order for their client to lose weight because diet is so controlled. So that's cool. It's like, it's super accountable. If you're like so dead set on losing weight, it can be super helpful to be in a meal plan by like a registered dietitian and to have them help you tweak that diet as time goes on to make sure you're still getting results. A lot of people actually prefer this method of dieting because it doesn't usually involve any counting, no tracking, no macros. It's pretty thoughtless. You meal prep for the week, the stuff that you have to eat every day, and then you just eat it. You don't have to think about it. That's just it. So for people who are like creatures of habit and who don't mind eating the same thing every day, this a lot of times works really, really well. The cons of this kind of dieting is obviously that this is really restrictive. Like you can only have the stuff that's on your meal plan and that's it. So like if you go out to dinner, you can't eat what's there because it's not on your meal plan. If someone surprises you with a donut at work, you can't eat it because it's not on your meal plan. So a meal plan, while it works really well, can just be so limiting and so restrictive, and there's not really any variety. And it also can be triggering for some people to have their food choices so controlled by somebody else. Like with tracking macros, your macros are controlled, but you still get to choose what you eat every day. For some people on a meal plan, having somebody else tell you what to eat every day just triggers this anxiety of like, oh, I can't choose what I eat. Somebody else is telling me what I eat. The last thing that I want to talk about is intuitive eating. Now, intuitive eating might sound similar to the first diet that I mentioned, which is just aiming to clean up your diet or eat healthier, but intuitive eating is actually pretty different than that. A lot of people have different definitions of intuitive eating. Some people think intuitive eating is just eating what you want when you feel like eating in whatever quantities you feel like eating. You just eat how you feel. You listen to your body. But in my opinion, intuitive eating is more than just that. It's not just eating what you feel like eating, it's eating what you know you should be eating. Like some days I wake up and I feel like my body is telling me to eat a slice of chocolate cake for breakfast. I don't think my body would ever actually require a chocolate cake for breakfast. That's probably my cravings and my emotions telling me to eat a chocolate cake. If I were trying to eat intuitively, that thought may come up like I want chocolate cake, but my intuition would tell me that's not a good way to start the day, that sugar is gonna make you crash. you need protein, you need vegetables. And so that to me is an example of intuitive eating in action. It's not just eating what you crave, it's not just eating what you want, it's eating with health in mind, with what you know about nutrition in mind, with what you know about nutrient timing and micronutrients and portion sizes. Like I said, I see a lot of people abuse the term intuitive eating, and they will say they're intuitively eating by just eating whatever they want and eating a bunch of crap. So I think in order to really intuitively eat, which is really just how you should be eating in general, it shouldn't even really have a name in my opinion, I think that it does require a good knowledge of nutrition and a good knowledge of what your body needs in order to feel its best. I think it's gonna take knowing your body and knowing if you function better with a higher fat diet or a lower carb diet or a higher carb diet. I think knowing that kind of information about yourself will really help you eat intuitively in a way that is really good for you, helps manage your weight, or maybe even lose weight if that's what you're trying to do. The pros of this type of dieting is obviously that there's no numbers, there's no stress. Potentially, there shouldn't be stress because you're eating how you know you should and what makes your body feel good. It teaches mindfulness, it teaches listening to hunger cues. And I believe this is like the most natural way that we were intended to eat. The cons of this type of dieting obviously is that because you're not tracking, there's not really any accountability to food. If you're trying to lose weight while intuitive eating, it can sometimes be kind of hard because your intuition is never going to tell you to undereat. Typically, your body is going to tell you to eat the amount that it takes to maintain your weight. So trying to lose weight while intuitive eating a lot of times like kind of goes against what you feel like you should be doing, and you feel like you're going hungry more often, you're going to bed hungry, which some people prefer that and they're like fine just like going against their intuition in order to not have to track macros in order to lose weight. But it's just harder to measure. It's hard to know, am I actually in a caloric deficit? Am I actually losing weight? Because you're not tracking anything. And another con of this type of dieting is that if you don't understand nutrition, don't know a lot about nutrition, you can intuitively eat in a way that's not actually good for you. That is too much sugar, or not enough calories, or too much fiber or something like that. Like there's so many ways that you can eat that's just like not ideal for you. So if you are a person who's wanting to eat in a way that really honors your body and makes you feel good, get some information about nutrition, see a registered dietitian, and just learn up on the subject so that you can make the best choices for your body based on quality knowledge, not just how you feel. All right, this video was probably super long, but I just wanted to discuss all of this to kind of get it out to you guys, tell you guys about some different ways to diet, because I know a lot of people feel stuck when they want to lose weight, or they feel like, I want to change my diet, I want to make changes in my body, but I don't really know which avenue to go down. So hopefully this kind of cleared some stuff up for you guys. I definitely want this to be like an open conversation. I want to hear your guys' feedback. I want to hear your experiences with dieting. So leave a comment down below on just what you thought of this video, what you think of certain diets, or what has worked best for you, or any tips you might have. Read each other's comments, respond to each other. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.